Hi, I'm Dave Christensen, and welcome to another edition of SuperCoach, a series of videos for golf instructors. In our last video, we talked about the benefit for an instructor to structure and organize all his golf knowledge and golf advice into functional categories. We called that a syllabus, and it was based on the assumption that even an up-and-coming instructor can have so much knowledge and so much advice that breaking it down into manageable categories is not just a benefit, but a necessity. Otherwise, both golfers and instructors can easily get lost in the chaos. If you did not see that video, we recommend you watch it now because the advanced principle that we're going to talk about this time is based on the same assumption, that there is so much. And we're going to call this particular principle, we're going to call it significance. And it just means that of all the knowledge, all the advice, all the stuff that you hear, all the stuff that you work on, some of it is more important than others. Some of it is more consequential than others. Some of it has more of an impact on a golfer's golf game than others. Now, admittedly, this is a difficult principle for instructors, mainly because there are so many factors, so many variables, so many relationships that you have to rank and prioritize. But to make it even worse, it's also tricky. And I say tricky for this reason. A golfer does not have to play golf very long before he becomes thoroughly convinced, and I mean thoroughly convinced, that when it comes to golf, little things can make a big difference. For example, a beginner soon learns that if he misses the sweet spot by less than an inch, big difference. If his face angle is off by just a degree or two, big difference. And then he hears on TV that some tour pro makes some slight change to his swing and he wins a tournament the next week. So golf is infused with the belief that little things make a big difference. And a lot of golfers spend their entire lives looking for some little thing that's going to make a big difference in their game. Unfortunately, a lot of little things in golf are just that, little things. In fact, there's a lot of things, even some popular things, that have little or no effect on a student's game. For example, the difference between an interlocking and overlapping grip. I mean, who cares? Setting the wrist early in the backswing or late in the backswing. Upright swing plane, flat swing plane. Straight left arm or slightly relaxed left arm. Wide stance, narrow stance. Soling the club on the ground at address or having it hover slightly above the ground. I mean, big deal. A slow backswing, fast backswing. And things like pre-shot routine. I mean, who cares? Weight on the balls of your feet. I mean, where else are they going to be? And what about something that some tour pro is working on? Well, that gets our attention. We think, wow, if it's powerful enough to affect his game, just think what it might do for the rest of us. Well, I got news for you. A tour pro has already mastered all the really important stuff, and the kind of important stuff, and the moderately important stuff. He still has an overpowering desire to improve his game, but there's not much left. Maybe some fine tuning or some esoteric details. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if a world-class player is working on something or has just made a recent change, hasn't he already proven that one can become a world-class golfer without doing that? I guess that suggests that significance might vary a little bit from golfer to golfer. And it does, a little. But there's still some strong generalities. Let's take, for example, middle handicappers. And a middle handicapper is a golfer with a handicap between 8 and 20? In other words, somebody who shoots in the 80s or 90s. And just so you know, John Fridley and I have a very special place in our hearts for middle handicappers. That's because when we were very young and just starting out, we each happened to begin our careers at private country clubs. And most of the members were middle handicappers. So most of our lessons were with middle handicappers. There was an occasional beginner and maybe a handful of really good players, but the bulk of our work was with middle handicappers. And we found that many of these middle handicappers had been middle handicappers for a long time. Some of them longer than John and I had been alive. They'd certainly been playing golf longer than we had been, but somewhere along the line they got down to a middle handicap range and then they leveled off. They plateaued. And it wasn't for lack of trying, because they played golf and they practiced and they took lessons, but still flatline. And we learned that if you work on a 14 handicapper's grip, you get a 14 handicapper with a good grip. And you work on their stance and you get a 14 handicapper with a good stance. And you work on their tempo and you get a 14 handicapper with good tempo. The debt that we owe to these middle handicappers is that they forced us to come face to face with the concept of significance. We learned it wasn't enough just to offer solid advice. That didn't cut it. It took us a while, but we eventually identified two significant factors for these plateaued middle handicappers. One was clubhead speed, and the other was swing path. Clubhead speed and swing path. Virtually all these plateaued middle handicappers suffered from at least one, and often both, of these issues: swing path, clubhead speed. Now, these are significant factors not because they're so common, which they were. They're significant because if these two factors are not addressed, then they stay middle handicappers no matter what else you work on. That's what we mean by significance. Now, swing path is pretty straightforward, but clubhead speed is a combination of several factors. And whenever you have several factors, what should come to mind? What's the next step? Yeah, significance. Find out if some of the factors are more important and some are less important. Now, this also took us a while to find, but we finally identified the most significant factor for clubhead speed, and we had some help from some college professors and their biomechanics lab, but it still took us quite a while. But we identified the most significant factor for clubhead speed for this group of golfers. And that was the ability to swing the club faster than your arms. Because the wrist hinge, that allows the club and arms to swing at different speeds. And when done properly, the club can swing up to 3 times as fast as the arms. That's the most significant factor for clubhead speed. And again, it's significant because if you don't do it, you can't make up for it. Nothing else you can do will make up for that lack of speed. Now, some people call this using your wrists or hand action. Some call it release. Some call it lag. We call it just swing the club faster than your arm. Sometimes we call it ratio, referring to the ratio of clubhead speed to arm speed. Ratio of club speed to arm speed. And again, that ratio can approach 3 to 1 in a good player. Now, once a golfer is up to speed when it comes to his swing path and his ratio, then what? Well, then he's ready for the issues that affect a lower handicap golfer. And the things that affect a low handicapper's game include things such as the ability to control face angle, the consistency of the body motion. Of course, the other factors when it comes to swing speed, such as shoulders, arms, hips, legs, stability of the arc, and of course, short game. These are the things that low handicap players find significant. These are the things that affect the scores of low handicap golfers. Now, when you get down to really elite players, such as tour players or others who routinely shoot under par, as I said earlier, there's not a whole lot of low-hanging fruit in this group. If there are any opportunities or soft spots, it's usually in the area of distance control. But regardless, the job of the instructor is the same, which is to know not only what affects someone's game, but how much it affects someone's game. That way he can identify not just something that might help a student, but what's going to help the student the most. If you have any comments or questions, just put them in the comment section below, and be sure to join us next time for another edition of SuperCoach.